Scorpio, listen to me for a moment. Not with your mind racing ahead, but with that quiet, secret place inside your chest that recognizes truth before your thoughts can argue with it. December 7th is circling you like a soft halo, not as just another square on the calendar, but as a living doorway in time, and something about that date is already brushing against your spirit. Maybe you've felt it as a strange heaviness in your heart for no clear reason, or as a sudden lightness that doesn't match what's happening in your life. Maybe your sleep has been different, your dreams more vivid, your emotions closer to the surface. This is not random. This is your intuition picking up on a message before your logical mind has any proof. And if part of you feels like these words are landing exactly where they were meant to land, then stay close, because the energy of December 7th carries news, deep, personal, heart-shifting news that could move you to tears, not of despair, but of release, relief, and quiet happiness. There are certain days that arrive like any other, but leave you different than they found you. December 7th has that frequency for you, Scorpio. It's like a hidden checkpoint in your timeline, a moment where what you've been silently carrying, sowing, and surviving begins to answer back in ways you didn't dare to expect. You may notice, as this day approaches, that memories rise out of nowhere. Old conversations, unfinished endings, people you once loved or trusted, words you wish you had said, or apologies you never received. Your inner world is not glitching. Your soul is organizing itself. It's as if your spirit is walking through the archive of your past, taking inventory of what still hurts, what still feels unfair, what still feels unresolved. Not to drag you backward, but to prepare you for a message that has the power to gently close a chapter that has been left half open for far too long. You more than most know what it means to be the strong one, to hold the emotional center for everyone else, while your own heart quietly frays at the edges. There have been nights when you lay awake, staring into the dark, telling yourself you were fine when a part of you knew you were anything but. You've swallowed your tears for the sake of keeping the peace. You've kept showing up for people who barely noticed you were running on fumes. You've held entire worlds together with nothing but your willpower and a tired, tender heart. And somewhere along the way, life may have made you feel like your softness was a liability, like your sensitivity was something to hide. But the energy moving toward you now tells a different story. December 7th does not come to expose your weakness. It comes to honor your endurance. In the language of the stars, this moment looks like a spotlight being gently tilted back toward your inner foundations, the kind of alignment that asks, where do you feel safe? Who makes you feel seen? Where does your spirit finally exhale? This isn't just about money, career, or love in the surface-level sense, though those areas may be touched. This is about emotional security, about being held by life instead of constantly bracing for the next hit. This is about the divine, the universe, God, whatever name you give that loving intelligence, sending you a clear sign that your tears, your prayers, your silent sacrifices have not disappeared into nothingness. You may receive news about your home, your family, your finances, or a long-awaited opportunity suddenly moving in your favor. You may hear from someone whose words finally bring closure or gratitude or recognition. Or the big news may arrive only inside your own chest, as a sudden, undeniable knowing that you are finally free from a story that used to define you. For some Scorpios, this news will touch the material world in a way you can't ignore. A payment released just in time, an approval that had been held up suddenly going through, a job, contract, or project that seemed uncertain landing in your lap with a gentle but unmistakable yes. You may call it luck, but it's more than that. It's alignment. It's the moment where the universe stops feeling like an indifferent sky and starts to feel like a living, listening presence that actually responds to the quiet work you've been doing in the dark. If something financial or practical shifts around December 7th, notice how your body reacts. Notice the way your shoulders drop, the way your breath changes, the way the tension around your heart loosens just a little. Those small physical shifts are often the first proof that the energy has turned in your favor. For others, the news will arrive through the realm of the heart, not necessarily as a dramatic declaration or a movie scene confession, but as something softer and realer, a message, a call, a voice that you didn't expect to hear in this way. Someone who once minimized you may finally acknowledge their mistake. Someone who once stayed silent may find the courage to speak. Someone you thought had forgotten you may prove they were paying attention the entire time. Or you might notice a new person stepping into your field, steady, kind, present, in a way that feels almost too gentle to trust at first. The point is not that another human saves you, it's that life begins to send you mirrors that actually reflect your worth back to you instead of distorting it. December 7 is like a small door where your heart is offered the chance to feel seen, not as the fixer, not as the rescuer, but simply as the soul you are. And then there is the third layer of this big news, the one that no chart, card or reader can fully interpret for you, because it belongs to your private dialogue with the divine. This is the internal breakthrough, the moment when something inside you finally lets go of a script you've been reciting for years. Maybe it's the belief that you always have to struggle to earn love, that good things never last, that joy always comes with a price. Maybe it's the story that you are too intense, too much, too complicated to be chosen fully. On or around December 7th, you may catch yourself thinking differently without even trying. Where you would once have braced for the worst, you might feel an unfamiliar calm. Where you would once have chased, begged, over-explained, you might feel an unexpected ease, a quiet willingness to let what is truly meant for you find its way without being forced. That shift, although invisible to others, is big news in the realm of the soul. Scorpio, you've lived through seasons where every day felt like another test of your endurance, and because of that, the thought that something tender and good could arrive for no reason other than its time may feel almost suspicious. You might be tempted to downplay what happens on December 7th, to tell yourself it's not a big deal, to brush off your own emotions because you've been trained to handle it. But allow yourself to feel this one. If your eyes sting, let the tears fall. If your chest trembles, let it. Sometimes the body cries not from pain, but from finally being allowed to relax. Tears of happiness are not a weakness. They are the soul's way of saying, I recognize this blessing. I know how long I waited for this. Don't rob yourself of that holy release by pretending you're unmoved, when, in truth, this is exactly what your spirit has been aching for. As this energy builds, there may also be resistance trying to pull you back into old patterns. People who are used to you overgiving may feel unsettled when you begin to say no more often. Situations that once drained you might call your name again, testing whether you truly believe you deserve better. Doubt might whisper that you're imagining things, that you're reading too much into signs, that the good news is temporary and will be snatched away. When that happens, remember this: your life does not improve because you never feel fear. It improves because you stop letting fear be the final voice that decides your future. You are allowed to be skeptical and hopeful at the same time. You are allowed to protect your heart and still open it to what feels right. You're allowed to step lightly but firmly into a new chapter without explaining your every move. If you want to anchor the energy of December 7th in a simple, grounded way, you don't need elaborate rituals or complicated tools. On the morning or evening of that day, take a few slow breaths with intention. Place your hand over your heart and speak words that feel true for you. It could be as simple as, I am ready to receive good news, or I allow life to surprise me in kind and gentle ways, or I trust that what is meant for me will not pass me by. Write one sentence that feels like an inner yes, and keep it somewhere close to your body. A pocket, a wallet, a notebook you see often. Not because these actions magically force the universe to deliver anything, but because they line up your mind, your emotions, and your energy into the same direction. Openness instead of constant defense. Pay close attention in the days around this date to the small things that would be easy to dismiss. The message that lands exactly when you were thinking of that person. The email that arrives just when you thought the opportunity was gone. The bill that somehow gets covered. The conversation that lifts a weight you didn't even know you were still carrying. The moment in front of a mirror, when you look at yourself and feel, maybe for the first time in a long while, I made it this far. I'm proud of who I'm becoming. These are not minor. They are the fabric of the big news weaving itself quietly through your life. Sometimes the announcement isn't one loud event. It's a series of aligned moments that, together, shift the entire direction of your heart. And if nothing obvious seems to happen on that exact day, do not decide that you've been forgotten. Some doors open loudly, others slide into place without a sound, and you only realize later that everything started changing from that point forward. December 7th may be the moment the seed is planted, even if the fruit appears weeks or months later. Trust the timing that doesn't match your impatience but perfectly matches your growth. You are not behind. You are not missing your chance. You are living inside a process that cares far more about your wholeness than about rushing you into something you're not ready to hold. The same force that kept you alive through your hardest nights is capable of delivering joy without harming your nervous system in the process. As you listen to this, notice how your body responds. If your shoulders soften, if your breathing deepens, if you feel a strange, quiet warmth behind your ribs, that's not just emotion, it's recognition. A deeper part of you already knows that your story is not meant to end in constant struggle, constant loss, constant self-blame. There is a chapter where you are allowed to receive. There is a chapter where you are allowed to rest. There is a chapter where the news that arrives does not break you, but heals what the breaking left behind. December 7th stands as a symbol of that turning point, a marker in the river of your life that says, from here on things begin to move differently. If these words resonate with you, consider marking this moment with a small act of acknowledgement. You might whisper, I'm ready, under your breath. You might press your hand over your heart and simply feel it beating, remembering that as long as it does, new beginnings are possible. You might choose to comment or write somewhere, I am ready to receive the big news my soul has been waiting for. Not because typing those words forces anything to happen, but because intention spoken out loud has a way of calling your courage to the surface. Let this be less about manifesting a specific event and more about aligning with the deeper truth. You are worthy of good news, of kindness from life, of moments that move you to tears for all the right reasons. And as we come gently toward the close of this message, there is something important to say in the softest, clearest way possible. What you've heard here is not a rigid prediction carved in stone, but a sacred story, a possible timeline, a mirror held up to the part of you that still believes in grace. This is a spiritual reflection, an energetic reading, a thought offering meant to inspire, to comfort, to awaken, not a guarantee, not a substitute for practical choices, professional advice, or your own inner wisdom. If this message feels like it was written for you, take the pieces that give you strength and let them become fuel for kinder decisions in your real everyday life. If parts of it don't fit, you are free to release them like leaves in a flowing river, trusting that not every word is meant for every Scorpio at every moment. Let this narrative be what it was always meant to be, a gentle companion on your path, not a command. The real power has never been in these words or in any date circled on a calendar. It has always lived inside you, in your resilience, your intuition, your capacity to heal and begin again. So as December 7th approaches and then passes, remember that the biggest news of all may be this. You did not give up on yourself, even when it would have been easier. You stayed. You listened. You allowed hope to flicker where numbness once lived. And in a world that so often teaches people to harden, that alone is a miracle. Scorpio, may the days ahead bring you messages that affirm your worth, opportunities that honor your effort, and moments of grace so real they bring tears to your eyes, not from breaking, but from finally being met by the life you deserve. And if at any point you begin to doubt again, to wonder whether you imagined the signs or exaggerated the meaning of what unfolded, come back to the simplest proof you have, the way your own spirit responded, the way your body leaned in to listen, the way something inside you whispered, "This is for me," even if you couldn't explain why. That inner response is not drama. It is data. It is the language of your soul, more honest than any mask you wear for the world. Trust that. Nurture that. Let December 7th be less about chasing miracles and more about remembering that you yourself are the ongoing miracle, that your capacity to feel, to love, to rise again after every disappointment is the clearest evidence that life has not finished blessing you yet.